celebration. The Papayas family celebrates 50 years of Greek cuisine in Quebec City. The family patriarch has owned and operated numerous restaurants here in Quebec City, paving the way for Greek culinary traditions. Andreas Papayas, his son, now operates La Taverna Mezzé, La Taverna Grecque in Montcalm. It's an establishment renowned for a modern representation of Mediterranean cuisine with many ingredients imported directly from Greece. I reached out to Andreas earlier today. Here's our conversation. Good afternoon, Andreas.
Good afternoon, Alison.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Well, thank you.
First of all, congratulations on celebrating 50 years of Greek cuisine in Quebec City. How does that make you feel?
Well, actually, we don't really think about it. It's just, the business being what it is just day to day, every day, just everything is going so fast, so we don't really have the time to think about it. But yeah, definitely, it's a big achievement for a small family like us. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So where does the story of your family and Greek cuisine begin in Quebec City?
Well, it all begins when my father actually arrived in Quebec a bit by accident. He was on a boat going to Argentina, and the boat just stopped in Quebec during the strike in the 70s. So the boat was stuck in Quebec Harbor for a few days, and then the days turned down into weeks and then months. So most of the sailors that were on the boat just left the boats and went somewhere else. And my dad met my mom in Quebec City in a Greek restaurant. So he decided to stay here and start his own business.
There's very often a love story associated to people who decide to stay in Quebec City. But what was the love story of your father trying to tell the story of his roots and his culinary traditions? Where does that begin?
Well, actually, at the beginning was really hard. It was harder, especially in Quebec City, to find the Greek products that really represented the Greek culture, the culinary culture of Greece. So it all began with restaurant, but not really focused on Greek cuisine, but always a bit of Greek cuisine on the side, kind of. So most of them were pizzerias with where you could find a little section of Greek cuisine, mostly moussaka and those classic tzatziki and all those classics that we know now of Greek cuisine. But slowly, with the evolution of transport and the access to different products from importation, the menus that we could offer could be a bit more representative of the real Greek cuisine.
Because you mentioned pizza. Pizza's not Greek.
Yeah, no, well, no, but in Quebec City, most of the first pizzerias were actually open and operated by Greek families. So when you were a Greek immigrant in the 70s, your first connection with Quebec would be Greek families, and most of them would be in the restaurant business. Most of them were doing pizzas or the classic 50s, 60s kind of restaurant dinners, with the charbroiled steak and Canadian cuisine, as we say now.
You hinted a little bit to it, but how hard was it for your family to have access to typical Greek ingredients in the 70s?
Well, at the beginning, it was almost impossible, actually, to make the strain yogurt, the real Greek yogurt. They had to buy the milk from local producers and just strain the milk and, do it homemade, but in the kitchen. So they would just do it the same way they used to do it in their houses, like my grandmother used to do it, without mechanical needs or something, just like handmade stuff. So it was a completely different process for everything. So you couldn't offer as much as you wanted because of the lack of access to those products. But then slowly, as I was saying, with the importation that just got easier, all the international travels and accessibility to other products made it just a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. For those listening who maybe do not know exactly what what ingredients truly represent Greek cuisine, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, well, sheep milk in all its form, but mostly in cheeses, for sure. We know feta. Everybody knows feta, but there's so many Greek cheeses to choose from. Now we have a great choice of Greek cheeses. If you go in Montreal in Greek supermarkets and everything, you will find different kind of cheeses. Then I would say fresh herbs, oregano, of course, but I would add thyme, rosemary, everything that used to grow wild and still grows wild in Greece. I remember when I was younger, growing up in the mountains with my grandmother to pick up some herbs and spices, depending on the season of which herb would be ready to be picked up and everything. So definitely this is a part, and olive oil, of course.
You just mentioned your grandmother. You had the chance to spend many summers with your grandmother, and you grew in that very traditional Greek restaurant environment pretty much all of your life. And now you're the new generation of the Papayas family operating a restaurant here in Quebec City, the Mezzé. What do you feel are classic Greek ingredients that portray the work of not only your family, but Greek culinary traditions overall?
Olive oil, everything that's related to it, definitely. And then we have those unknowns, I think, of the Greek cuisine. I really like to use the pomegranate. I really like to use figs. I really like to use bergamotto. Bergamot, I don't know how it is in English. Bergamot.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my grandmother doing some jams with these kind of fruits. They used to dry them, make all kind of things that got lost somewhere in between generations. And honey is such a important part of Greek cuisine, especially when it comes to desserts and stuff like that. There's not one Greek dessert, I think, that does not include at least a spoon of honey somewhere in the process.
Mm-hmm. That speaks so much of terroir and of the beauty of and a sense of place at the same time. That's the power of honey. But you speak much of ingredients. But how do you perpetuate the family traditions? How do you bring culinary cuisine to the 21st century?
Well, I try to take the most traditional recipes and just give it a bit of a modern twist to it, but not without modifying it or without changing the essence of it, but just adding a zing to it. Let's say it like that. As per se, I would use pomegranate vinegar instead of red wine vinegar, so that sweetens everything that you do, but still gives it that vinegar kick, but gives it a little sweetness at the end, a little round. It just makes it easier. Or just a little zest of orange on some original recipes. The orange will bring out something else in the original recipe and in the original taste. Just a little bit here and there, but always keeping in mind what could be used in Greece, never going outside of the Greek terroir.
How important is it for you to import all of those ingredients directly from Greece?
Well, it is. It is at the essence of the thing, because you have to have the real thing in order to get the real taste that you're looking for. Because when I think of a recipe, when I think of a flavor of a dish, of a meal, the one that comes up to mind is the one that my grandmother used to make. So I cannot make the same basic recipe as a chicken with lemon and oregano without the original oregano. I cannot take cultivated indoor in a grown house somewhere in Canada oregano. It will never have the same taste that the wild grown oregano that my grandmother used to pick in the mountain at this time of the year, because that was the time of the year to pick it up, because after it was too early, before it was too early, after that period was too late, so you had to know. So without those precise ingredients, you will get close to the thing, but never really there. So and that's the most important thing.
So you're bringing your customers specifically where you and your family grew originally in Greece. How much of a challenge then is it for you to keep things simple, as you're saying, add modernity to the essence of your cuisine, but to have a sense of respecting the environment, to have an ecological impact on your activities. Do you think about that at all?
Yeah, well, that's an everyday challenge for us. I think about every time we take out the trash and, you see the amount of boxes and plastic containers and that you use. So we try to buy everything that we can locally, meats, fruits, veggies, everything that we can get. The closer to us that we can, we will. Otherwise, it's just a question of using it with a purpose in a good way, and minimizing the waste. That's the most important thing, minimizing the waste. And there's one thing, I was thinking about that issue since a long time. And one thing I stopped selling is Greek sparkling water, because I realized, importing water is a nonsense, especially here. We have so many good sparkling water bottles here and everything, but we were in a trend. We wouldn't even think about it. Everybody was importing water from France, from Italy, so we started importing water from Greece as well, because we have marvelous sources of water, of spring water in Greece. But then at the end of the day, you just travel water with airplanes, so it's the fuel cost. And after that, they have to go to trucks and this and that. So that issue, we just stopped importing Greek sparkling water. We just serve Quebec sparkling water, and of course recycling everything. Recycling is the key.
Andreas, if you look towards the future, what do you feel? What does the future of Greek gastronomy, Greek traditions look like in Quebec?
Hopefully, it will keep evolving. Unfortunately, there's less and less Greek families involved not in the restaurant business. A lot of them are still involved in the restaurant business, but not in Greek cuisine. So there's very few of us left doing Greek cuisine. But I'm still here I'll still be here for a few years. But I think Greek cuisine is still to be discovered and rediscovered, because at the end of the day, it's the essence of European cuisine. Most of the ingredients first was, they were used in Greece for many, many, many years, and then brought up in Northern Europe. So Greek cuisine as the Mediterranean diet will always be, I think, at the core of all of gastronomy, because it's a really pure gastronomy. There's no fla-fla around it, as we say in French. This is what you get. It's simple, it's pure, it's tasty, and it's healthy.
Andreas.
So there's no end to that. You know what I mean?
For sure. Andreas, thank you so much. Kalimera.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.